Hey, friends, welcome to the Digitally Overwhelmed podcast. My name is Cynthia, and I run Digital Bloom IQ, where I help therapists and counselors grow their business through search marketing. This is episode 222, which I just love. And today we're going to be talking about how to get found in Google Maps. So, this is a hot topic. Maybe some of you have a Google Maps listing, have a Google business profile, and you're just trying to figure out, what do you need to focus on next? What's important for your business? What's important to just like come up in that first page, in the first part of that listing? And so my intention with this episode is to really give you a bit of a framework and some components to consider when it comes to getting ranked in Google Maps. So I'm going to be doing a little presentation. So if you're listening to the audio version of this episode, you'll still get a lot out of it. And if not, you can check out the video version with the presentation on my YouTube channel, which is Digital Bloom IQ as well. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Okay, here we go. So how to get ranked on Google Maps. So a couple things that I'm going to be walking through in this episode is, why Google Maps? How are people using Google Maps nowadays? I know this sounds kind of basic, but it's good for us to, even for me, just to take a step back and really think about what is the business case here, and what are people doing when they open up their phones or open up their computers to search for something inside of Google Maps. The next thing we're going to be looking at are these three components that I recommend you consider when it comes to getting ranked. And so I'm going to give you a lot of little ideas, a lot of things to look at. And so some of them maybe you're familiar with, maybe some others you're not. So you can just, decide what you want to pull from there. And then I'm going to be giving you some like action steps and kind of how to go forward from this, because a lot of the theory is great, but then we need to take action. We need to actually put this into a plan so that we're going forward. So here are a couple Google stats. I took this from the hostingtribunal.com. So, and these are from the last 3 to 5 years. So they're updated, they're fresh stats. So Google Maps has 154.4 million monthly users. Wow. It is the world's most popular navigation app. So it's the one that most of us use. Of course, there are other options, like Apple has a Maps. There are definitely other competitors, but at this point it is kind of the most popular. And then Google Maps users add more than 20 million pieces of information every single day. And the reason I added this last stat is I think it's interesting to think about Google Maps, not, or I should say like our Google business profile, which I'm going to be explaining in a second. It's not just kind of the static thing that we create and that just like kind of sits on the internet, right? It's an interactive, and it's almost like a conversation with the people who have interacted with our businesses. And I'm going to be talking about ratings and reviews, but this can change also your perception of this tool for your business, because suddenly it's you have like a great responsibility, obviously, to keep things updated, to keep things fresh. But there's also ways to invite users to also contribute. And that is the distinguishing factor, I think, with the listings and the businesses that really get a lot out of it. And so I just wanted to add that, because I do think that users and visitors are active on Google Maps. They're not just passively consuming, they're also, taking actions to improve the platform, also share. There's like different ways that the visitor can kind of contribute back to this tool. All right, so obviously there's a couple different reasons why we would use Google Maps. So to find services and products in our area, that's the biggest one we're going to be focusing on during this podcast episode. But users and visitors also use it to get directions. They want to get from point A to point B. They're using it to, understand what's the best way to do that. And then for travel, so there have been a number of features in the last few years, like Street View or images. So if you're traveling to an area you've never been to before, it can be helpful to just have a map, right? And so again, we're going to be focusing mostly on that first one, especially since I specialize in therapists and counselors. We're really pinpointing someone who is searching for mental health services inside a specific area. So this could be something like anxiety therapy in Chicago, or OCD therapy in, Austin, those sort of things. People are searching that. And so we want to be able to target those searches and show up in those searches. All right, so basically, Google Maps, what we're talking about is local SEO. And so what this is SEO is search engine optimization, if you don't already know. And it's just this specific act of targeting people who are in a specific geographical region. So this is a little different from like the more general SEO, let's say. They can complement each other, and there are definitely crossovers between these two types of search marketing. But getting found in Google Maps, especially when you provide services, either you have a brick and mortar location or you provide services that are restricted to a geographical region, like if you're a counselor or a therapist, and you can only practice in your state or in a few states. So you are restricted. So you have to think about, people searching in this area, because that's where you're going to be able to grow your business and target those specific customers. So that's what local SEO means. It's nothing else. And of course, local SEO, does involve a website. It does involve other things. We're not going to be covering that in this episode, but it's good to think about Google Maps as one of the components that is part of your local SEO strategy. Okay, so let's dive into these 3 areas of a successful local SEO strategy. So number 1, surprise, a very strong Google business profile. So here we're talking about accurate business information. We're going to be, I'm going to be showing you an example, but basically we want to make sure that the name of your business is accurate, the address is accurate, all the information, your website, everything has to be perfect. And this is so important. And I know it sounds kind of like obvious, maybe to some of you, but you don't know how many times I've worked with clients and we go in and, maybe they don't have their link correct, or, maybe their address, they moved and there's like discrepancies. So we want to make sure that the address and the information is perfect, because that's what Google is going to use. The next thing is just making sure that the services and the categories in the business listing are perfect, are correct. So there's a lot of different options. There's like categories, subcategories inside your Google business profile. And you want to make sure you're selecting the right ones so you're showing up in the right searches. And this is one of the things I help my clients with. But if you're doing this on your own, I just recommend taking some time to looking at the options, getting clear of kind of like, where do you want to be competing? And not just selecting the first option necessarily, but taking some time to evaluate what options you have. And I think that's going to help you just make a really strategic decision instead of just grabbing the first one you see there. Images are so important, especially nowadays. People want to know, what does your office look like? What does your the area where you receive clients look like? So depending on the type of business that you have, and if your clients are interacting and coming indoors, they want to get a sense of what to expect. So take some time. You don't need a fancy photographer unless you want to get like a fancy photo shoot of your office space, but just taking your phone, taking those images of the different spaces, maybe buying some flowers and sprucing up a corner, just making it welcoming and beautiful is important. I know this feels like a little extra work, but remember that those images are one of the first things that people see in the listing. They're going to click on them, they're going to look at them. Also, including images of your team. So if you are working with several therapists in a practice, having a team shot, maybe having an image of the business owner specifically, that helps people really respond well to faces, and they already can start getting to know you through your business listing. The Google business profile also gives you the option of doing like a 360 view. If you want to do that, that's great. That's like a little extra bonus, but definitely spend some time with some nice images that look clean, professional. It looks like an inviting space that someone would want to go to. And just to kind of add to that, especially in the last few years with all the pandemic information, Google has allowed businesses to include what kind of restrictions they have for their office area. So that's something else to definitely include, because you might have some clients who want to just have clarity around how what your rules are in your office area. And then obviously we want to link to our website. So we want to choose a link that usually goes directly to like a booking or a contact page, because once the client is kind of convinced that they want to work with you, we don't want to make it hard for them to take that next step. So some clients might go ahead and just call you directly from the Google My Business profile. Other clients might just go and visit you directly, but many clients might actually go to your website, and that's kind of the next step. And so if we can kind of lead them directly to that next step of booking, that's great. You can just include that book now option. Another option is to send them to your homepage, but make sure there's like a really big book now button right from the homepage, right from the top menu, so that they don't have to do that extra work to find, to be able to book work time with you. All right, so here are a couple additional recommendations that Google gives us, and this is again from the Google support website. So like I said already, we want to make sure we're entering all the complete information of the business. So the physical address, the phone number, the category, attributes. So Google actually has like a verification process. So if you go ahead and click through to that verification process, which will happen once you register your business, that will ensure your listing even more. So usually what this means is they send you something in the mail or they call you and they just want to verify that you're actually like a real location and you're not like making things up. So that usually does take a few weeks, sometimes months. So be patient with that if you haven't verified your business before. But that is definitely worth it. The sooner you can start that if you haven't verified your business, I highly recommend you do that. And then, the other area I didn't really talk about is your hours. So this is so important. And we've all had that experience of going somewhere and they're closed and you drove there and so frustrating, right? So make sure your business hours are updated, especially around holidays and special times of the year. Google does a really good job at reminding us to update these around special dates. But this is something that I don't think takes a lot of work to maintain. It's more just that reminder and keeping things, updated. All right, so let's next talk about NAP consistently. So very quickly, what is NAP? So NAP stands for name, address, and phone number. And like I mentioned, this is a important component of your business, your Google business profile. Now, beyond Google business, we also want to make sure that we are registered on the other directories, the other local directories that users use, like Yelp, potentially Facebook, Apple Maps. So I'm not going to get into all the options that are out there, but my first recommendation is to start to document where you've registered your business. Just have kind of a spreadsheet or a list, whatever is most comfortable for you, and keep track of everywhere you're listed, and link, have a link to that listing so you can quickly access it and check it out. So basically here, the important thing is to make sure that your NAP data, which, like I said, is the name, address, and phone number, is absolutely identical across all your business listings. And this is important because this consistency is actually something that Google looks at when they're ranking you in search results. And it can make a big difference in your rankings. So the version of your NAP data needs to be identical, like literally exactly the same. And it might seem kind of innocent. It might seem, what's the big deal? But this is kind of a crucial thing that we work on with our clients, because a lot of the times they have like these small things where they might have the name or different versions of the name. Some versions say LLC, some versions don't. They have different versions of their address, or maybe they moved, and so they've got some directories on the old address and some directories on the new address. So you just need to make sure that all your listings are identical. And this is going to help with your rankings. So here's a quick example. So if you have like 12 Cherry Street as your address, and then you have another directory that's 12 Cherry Street, but the part that's street is spelled out. In the first version, it's just ST and a dot. In the second version, it's the full word street. This is inconsistent. So you need to choose one. Just go with the one that you feel most comfortable with, that's on your business cards, and just stick with that one. So this is really important, and it can make a big difference. And this is also a great exercise because you can start to get clarity about all the different places you're listed, all the different platforms. If you're a therapist or counselor, maybe you're on like Psychology Today, you have a profile, maybe you have some paid profiles. So just start to document that and have that all in one place, because over time you can, update these, you can keep track of them. And this also leads to the next part, which is ratings and reviews. So you can start to look at where you're getting your ratings and reviews. All right, so let's talk about a consistent ratings and reviews system. So one of the biggest mistakes I see my clients make when it comes to local SEO is that they kind of leave ratings and reviews to kind of like, they just let it happen on its own. And many times you do get organic reviews. Yes, absolutely. If you are doing powerful work in the world, your clients, your patients are going to naturally share their experiences. So to some extent, I think it's okay to leave it to do it organic. The other thing is that I think for a lot of you, you aren't really allowed to directly ask for a review. And so we're going to talk about how to get around that a little bit, but it still needs to be something intentional. It needs to be something you're thinking about, because this can definitely shift the ways that you are showing up in the local search results. So it can't be an afterthought. I did do an episode 218 that specifically gives you some really clear examples. So if you want to get more information, check out episode 218. But at a high level, what we want to do is we want to be asking our clients and customers on an ongoing basis for ratings and reviews. So this could be a sign in your office. This could be an email that gets automatically sent every once in a while. This could be something that's in your email signature or in your WhatsApp message signatures. It doesn't even have to say, give us a rating. It could just say like, Google business profile link. And so people are like, oh, they're on Google Maps. Let's, give them a review. Especially if someone has had a great experience with you, you want to make it easy for them to find you on these platforms and leave you that review. So it has to be an ongoing part of your operations. It has to be intentional. It's going to make a big difference in your rankings. And like I said, there are certain ways to automate things like emails, messages. Maybe you already send your clients like a thank you card every once in a while, or you send them something in the mail. So could you, on the card, just at the bottom, have an easy link that links to your Google Maps? Again, this isn't about like leave us a review necessarily, but letting them know that, hey, I do have a business profile. Having the little star graphics is great. In your office, you can also have like a little sign that just says Google Business Profile with the stars. Those are just some easy ways to like expose your listing. And so while someone's waiting for their appointment, they can just log on their phone and leave you a review. And just a quick thing, and I talk more about this in the episode 218, don't be afraid of negative reviews. That is part of the process. And there are different ways that we can handle negative reviews. And it's actually good that you get negative reviews. I know that doesn't sound, like intuitive, but negative reviews are just part of it. And it's more the way we respond to negative reviews. That's what people pay attention to. So it's okay. All right, so I've given you a lot of information. So what's next? So I want you to take a couple of the ideas, maybe just like one of the biggest things that got you the most hyped up from what I showed you in this episode. And I want you to book some time right now in your calendar to get this done. So it's really important to just focus on one step at a time. So whether it's updating your business profile, maybe you haven't verified and you need to just go and claim your business profile. Just block out an hour and get that done. Get started. Maybe you want to start like moving your ratings and reviews. So block out some time to have a meeting with an assistant or your team to just like put some things into action. And if you're feeling like still really overwhelmed or just kind of confused of like what's the most important thing for you at this point, I did want to offer you an SEO discovery call. So these are limited calls that we do every single month for our community, and basically it gives us an opportunity to just give you some information, give you a strategy that we think is most relevant for getting ranked in Google and specifically Google Maps. So during the call, we actually build a small keyword list for you to walk away with. We do a quick ranking report, and we review different areas of your website and your business listing. So if you're interested in getting that one-to-one personalized like eyes on your website, we'd love to book that time with you. You can go to digitalbloomiq.com/discovery. There is a form that we ask you to fill out first, just to get a sense of where you're at in your business and if this is the right next step for you. But once you fill out that form, you'll be able to schedule a call. And yeah, we're really excited to talk with you, to grow your business, to make sure you're making the most of all your listings of your local SEO, and to just help you get to where you want to go when it comes to your own business. All right, my friends, I hope that you enjoyed this episode. I will catch you next week on the next episode. Have a great day.